Hey everyone, it's Haley, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 8 of 2016 so far. So what I've decided to do, since usually I'll do like at the end of the year a top 15 of 2015, but since it's top 16 of 2016 this year, and that's a lot of books to talk about, I'm going to split it up into 2. So I think from now on this is what I'll do. So in June, since that's the 6th month of the year, so we're halfway through the year, which is crazy, I'm going to do my like so far, so my top 8 so far, because it's 16, so that's half of 16. Oh my god, this is getting so mathematical. And then when like the year is over, I'll do my my top 8 of 2016, like the rest of them. So I hope that makes sense to you, but yeah, these are just my favorite books that I have read in this year so far. This video will actually be going out, I believe, at the beginning of July. I kind of forget. I'm pre-filming a bunch of videos before I go to France, so they're all kind of blurring together, but this is like my top 8 so far by June 22nd. So if I've read anything since then that I've loved, you won't see it on this list because it's June 22nd and I don't know if I loved it yet. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I did actually decide to order these, so we will be counting down to my favorite book of the year so far. So the 8th book on this list is Heidi by Johanna Spyri. I really loved this book. I was really excited for it because it seemed like just such a wholesome and nice story, and that is definitely what it was. It takes place in Switzerland and follows this little girl who is just so sweet and lovable, and she lives with her grandfather, and you just get to see her life in the mountains, and she comes across all kinds of different characters. It kind of reminds me of Me Before You in a way. Like, I had read Me Before You and then I read this one, so they kind of reminded me of each other. If you've read this one, then you know why. But it's just such a sweet story and I really loved it. It's a bit religious, but if you get past like all the very like preachiness of it, it's just such an enjoyable story, and I think you'll just fall in love with Heidi and her view of the world. Next on this list is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sure you're surprised that this is only at number 7, but I loved this book. But then again, I did have a couple of issues with it. I don't want to talk about those today because this is all about the positive things about this book, but overall, I thought it was such a great continuation of the Throne of Glass series. This is the 4th book, and I think it really improved upon the issues that I had with Heir of Fire. Like, Heir of Fire I thought was just, it was very much a bridge book between Crown of Midnight and this one, so I really, I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as I loved the rest of the series. I'd say Heir of Fire is my least favorite at the moment. Crown of Midnight is still my favorite, but this one is definitely high up there. I really loved this one, and I just think that Sarah J. Maas can do, no wrong with this series. It is just so good, and even though I did have issues with it, I mean, I just love the characters, and I love the world, and I just love the fact that she doesn't stick to, typical plots. There's constantly twists and turns that you're not expecting, and it's really just great. Speaking of, next book on this list is A Quart of Mist and Fury, also by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 2nd book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, and this one kind of leaned more towards a retelling of Persephone, whereas the first one was a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and I really loved it. I loved the turn the story took. I really enjoyed the fact that characters are kind of turned on their heads, but it makes sense. You can see why these characters are developing in this way, and it just made things that happened in the first book make sense even more. It was honestly just a crazy, wild ride. It was just so thrilling and just incredible. I just love this trilogy so much. Next at number 5 is 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book is just so good. I absolutely loved it. It takes place in the Grisha universe, which is the same universe that the Grisha trilogy took place in. Her previous book, there was a cardinal that just flew almost into my window. That was terrifying. But you follow these 6 crazy characters. They're all so unique, but they come together in this group and they go on this crazy heist, and it's just an incredible journey. You fall in love with these characters and you go on this wild ride with them, and you just feel like you're a part of something amazing. It's so great, and oh my god, I love it so much, and I'm so sad that it's only a duology. Next at number 4 is The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. I loved this book. It's the conclusion to the Raven Cycle Quartet, and I'm so sad that it's over because I fell in love with this cast of characters. They're just incredible, like some of the best, most well-developed characters I have ever read. The world was incredibly developed, and this book didn't let me down. Like, it did, but it didn't at the same time. It was supposed to let me down because, I mean, you build up the anticipation so much that I think you can't help but be let down, but like, it didn't let me down in a bad way. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, but like, it's just such an incredible story and I cannot recommend it enough. The writing is fantastic, it's so unique, just pick it up and you will not be disappointed. Next up is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I grew up watching this movie and I loved the movie, and the book didn't disappoint. I just adored it, it was so good. I just love the characters, I love Sarah, and I love her view of the world, and everything that happens is just so great. Like, I can't even describe my love for this book. It is just so good, and that is 100% why it got the number 3 spot. Next, coming in at number 2 is Rose Under Fire by Elizabeth Wein. I read this at the beginning of the year and it was honestly such an incredible story. I cannot recommend it enough. Codename Verity I read last year and it was on my top list of the year and I thought it was just incredible, but this one is a companion to that one and it follows different characters, but there are characters that appear in the first one that come up in this one, so I would recommend reading Codename Verity first, but this story is honestly just so touching and so raw. It takes place in a concentration camp for women, and you see the things that these women have to face, and it doesn't like shy away from it. I feel like a lot of times in YA, and I've said this before, if it's dealing with a brutal event in historical fiction, then it kind of like not glosses over it, but will almost sugarcoat it a little bit and not really be as brutal as it really was. But this really puts that brutality at the forefront and talks about it and makes it like very apparent. You can't ignore it, which I loved because it was so realistic. So I fell in love with the story and fell in love with the characters, and it was just so incredible. And finally, at number 1 on my list, my top book of the year so far, is The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I adored this book. I just thought it was so good, and it was one of those books where like when you're not reading it, you're thinking about it and you want to be reading it, which I think is the mark of a fantastic book, and this one definitely fit the bill. Like, the girl's a dog walker and there were dogs in it, there's a writer in it, it was just everything that I wanted from a book. I loved the characters and I loved seeing Andy try and figure out life, because she had this whole plan for her life, and then that kind of goes up in the air because her father is a politician and he had this huge scandal, so she's forced to move in with him and all this stuff transpires, and you see her trying to deal with it because she's so used to having every aspect of her life planned, so the fact that not all of this is planned for her is really jarring, and she's trying to deal with it, and you see her trying to face that and like the struggle she goes through. And I think it was just a really relatable book for me because of that, because I mean, I like to have things planned, and when they're not, I get a little bit stressed out. So I think that Andy was a really relatable character for me, and I just really appreciated her struggle, and just the whole entire cast of characters were fantastic, super relatable, and it was just such a great book. So those are my top 8 of 2016 so far. Let me know if you have read any of these books, if you liked them, or let me know your top book of the year so far. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!